Still believe it's a globe right now, right?
No, I actually, it caught my attention because I was talking to a guy the other day. He was like, he been to like he used to be a basketball player. He's been all over, like Poland, Germany, different places like that. And he was actually saying the same thing. That Earth is not a circle and it don't revolve. And then he was basically like the end of time would be like somewhere in Antarctica or something like flat ice or something like that.
Here it is, right there, the ice wall. The Earth looks like this. Antarctica is the ice wall that surrounds the Earth. The Earth is kind of like a lake. The continents are islands in the lake. And when people say, why can't you fall off the edge? And I say, well, can you fall off the edge of a lake?
Hey, buddy.
No, because you have a shoreline, which is Antarctica, that extends beyond.
This has even more information if you're interested. Oh, sorry. I went into a lot more detail into that flyer right there. So. Yeah, I'm a civil engineer draftsman. I've been doing this since 2004. We never considered curvature, spin, none of that, and you would have to for water dynamics. And then when you think about every place, you know, there's something called sea level, elevation zero, right? And sea level from Australia to California is flat water. So how does that curve around a ball? It doesn't. And the thing that really got me is you know, they have these things called time-lapse videos, right? And they put a time-lapse video on the North Star, and all the stars rotate in a perfect circle around the North Star all year long. And that blew my freaking mind, because I thought, like, you know, it was like shifting like this, you know, throughout the year, but it doesn't make sense because, you know, if we're looking out in the night sky, that means we're opposite of the sun, right? So that means 6 months of the year, you should be looking at the other side of the sun out into that space. So how do we have the same constellations all year long? You know, like the Big Dipper, it's there all year long. And it shouldn't be if we're looking out of this side of the sun on one night, and then the other half of the year we're looking at that sky on the other side of the sun. So it's impossible to have the same stars throughout the year. In fact, if you take into consideration of all the speeds, because they say we're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, we're going around the sun at 66,600 miles an hour, we're going around the galaxy at 600,000 miles per hour, or 600,000 miles per hour. Yeah, I said that right. And then the galaxy is going around the Great Attractor at 2.1 million miles per hour, so the star should look like this every night. And it doesn't. It's a perfect concentric circle around the North Star. The North Star is always stationary. They've been using it for thousands of years for observation of navigation and everything like that. Water always lays flat, no matter how big the water is. Like, have you ever been to a lake early in the morning? It's like glass. It makes a perfect image of whatever's behind it, like a mirror. And if you've ever taken a mirror and you bend it just a little bit, it distorts the image. But every lake is flat water, and you can see a mirror image of whatever's behind it. Always amazed how you do it. Proving that it's completely flat.
So nobody never been to space?
Nobody's been to space. In fact, space, it cannot even exist, because we have something called the second law of thermodynamics that says high air pressure will go into low air pressure, right? If you have air pressure in here and you had a vacuum in this box and you unplug it, all the air would equalize. So this would split in half, and then you'd have the same air pressure. The same thing goes for if we have air pressure here that we're breathing, right? And then if we lived in a giant vacuum, what stops the vacuum from ripping it off the earth? You know? And people will say gravity, and I say, well, gravity would work here too, because if we unplug it here, it's going to go into the vacuum. You can't say that it's gravity. Gravity doesn't hold air, otherwise we wouldn't have wind. You know? It's nonsensical, but it's only it only like seems really crazy because you're told at 4 years old, you live on a spinning space ball, then you ask, how do you not fall off? They tell you gravity, and then shut the fuck up, and then you don't hear about it for the rest of your school life, right? But you still see that globe every day. If you don't see it in school, you see it in TV, you see it in movies. It's just propaganda to continue to get it into your head. The Universal Studios, the spinning globe that they had it in the 1920s for their movies before they allegedly went to space. So how do they have a picture of the spinning globe Earth in the 1920s? It's because it doesn't exist. It's a cartoon. It's an animation. It doesn't even, it's never existed. NASA's the biggest liar of all, and they get $60 billion a year to fake space to us. And it's just to tell us, I mean, there's a lot of theories of why they're lying to us, but the biggest ones are like they're hiding land and resources from us, and they're actually hiding that this place was created because it's a perfect design. Like it can't happen by accident, right? They want everything to have a physical beginning, even though when you go back to the Big Bang, nothing exploded and became everything, right? But in reality, if you look at the construct of this place, you can obviously see this design. This place was built for us, straight up. And they want us to think that we're on this because if this is all there is, then there's no place else to go, right? Have you ever seen the Truman Show movie with Jim Carrey? Oh man, you gotta see that. It's pretty funny. So this guy, he grows up with a TV camera on him his entire life, from birth all the way up into his adulthood. And while he was a child, he says, I want to be like Magellan and discover places on the earth. And she pulls down this map and she goes, oh, there's no place to go. There's no reason to be an explorer. And that's exactly what they're doing with the globe. And in the end of the movie, he finds the edge of the earth and the edge of his earth and left.
So what's the benefits of them portraying the picture that it's a circle globe and it's really flat?
Because, again, with this, you have limited resources, you have limited land, there's no place else to go, right? So, and then they tell you, now we're going to space and all this other nonsense, right? But if there is no place else to go, why would you go looking for other places? What if there's a continent for every one of us? Let's say, okay? And they tell us there's lack of resources, we're overpopulated, so who do you need to trust to answer all these questions? The government. So it's a control mechanism. It's a control for your mind to say, look, we only have so many resources, we only have so much land, we need men to be in charge to tell us how to live our lives. It's a control mechanism, that's all it is. But yeah, if you look into it, look at how many people visit Antarctica. You'll find the Pope, the Eastern Orthodox leader. You'll find the guy who was the president-elect during Trump's inauguration. I can't remember his name. But he went out to Antarctica. All these very powerful, famous people go out to Antarctica, but yet they say there's nothing out there, there's nothing to see, and you can't go explore there like as a person and go beyond the 60th parallel south. The 60th parallel south, if you went to the north and cut off the 60th parallel north, you wouldn't have Alaska. That's how much they cut off from the south that you can't travel. Because we believe that the south is the outer markers of our, like let's say all the oceans are a lake. It would be the shoreline of our lake is Antarctica. It's actually circumventing us rather than just being a little landmass in the bottom. And if you've noticed, like even in my life, I'm only 42 years old, and I remember in my life slopes changing where it used to show like a little green on the North Pole, and then they changed it to a little ice on the North Pole, and now they changed it to nothing but water. And they keep changing the shape. They can't keep their story straight. But in the world map that we all use in schools, with the Antarctica down here and the north up here, the guy who created that map is called Mercator, and he wrote a book about the northern map that they cut off of the North Pole, and there's 4 more continents just at the North Pole. And that's on the bottom of every globe.
Decorative purposes.
Yeah, globes are not for education, only for decorative purposes.
On every globe you see that underneath. Why do they do that?
The Earth is flat and stationary, scientifically observably flat. Water does not conform to the exterior shapes.
It's up to you.
The Earth is covered with flat level water, 70%.
Why would you put that sticker on a globe? That's what these are in schools all over the world.
And in TV shows and in movies. And it's really ridiculous because you'll be watching like some cop show, right? And they'll have a globe sitting on the desk. Why would they need a globe on a cop's desk? Right? Are they going to use that to solve a crime? But they have to. The set producers pay extra money to put globes on the set so that it's reinforced in your mind subconsciously. And I mean, all the space propaganda, man, there's tons of space propaganda.
And when you realize
Star Wars, Star Trek,
your mind opens up so much when you see all the other deceptions around you.
Yeah, this is just the surface of the lies, which I'm sure the government's lie about all sorts of shit. But this is like the most open-minded test. If you can like let go of this and see Earth as it really is, because look, we can only test what we can observe, right? But they tell us we have to believe in this, which means it's a faith-based religion about this globe Earth. And if you let that go, then your mind can be open and say, okay, I need to test things for myself and not just trust men in authority to tell me what to do. That's the main thing of this. It's like, it's not about the shape of the Earth, it's about they're fucking lying to us about everything. you know, this whole, you know, this control mechanism that they're using now, you know, now it's 1 mask, 2 masks, face mask. You know, pretty soon they'll say, oh, COVID can only live 3.5 feet above the ground, so people will be crawling around on the ground, you know? Who knows? Who knows what they'll come up with next, you know? In the beginning, they said sunlight will kill COVID, so everybody stay in your house. That makes sense, you know? It's just ridiculous, man. It's just a control mechanism. The media lies to you. There's no such thing as government. Leaders are chosen ahead of time, and they just make you think that you have a choice. You know, and even not just us saying this, but even presidents themselves say that presidents are selected, not elected. You know, the Earth is flat, stationary, provably and observably flat. Scientists tried to prove the spin of the Earth, and they proved that it was stationary. Water cannot conform to the exterior shapes. Water always lays flat and level on the surface.
Earth is not a globe. 200 proof.
71% flat level water. Water cannot extend to the surface of the Earth.
Earth is not a globe. 200 proof.
There's no spin. The Earth is not a globe. You can't have air pressure in a vacuum without a barrier. Yeah, so I looked into this back in early 2016. And at first you look at it and it's like it's the most ridiculous thing you ever heard. But the more you poke at it, man, you just realize, man, they lied to us about freaking everything, you know? The first thing for me, like, watching the stars rotate around the
Free
North Star,
information. Earth is not a globe.
but then, like,
Earth is not a globe.
Like, we
Yes.
never considered curvature or span.
We can prove it. There's over 200 proofs on that website.
Road and acreage of land, you
If
know?
I pour water in a cup, the
Because
surface of
what
that
it
water
is,
is
the
flat,
curvature
right?
of the Earth is
If I
8
pour it in a
inches per mile
bathtub,
squared. For
it's
every
flat.
mile you go out, you
A pond, a lake, the ocean, it's always flat. If 70% of the Earth is water and 70% of something is flat, how can it be a ball?
And if you think about it, if you were standing on a ball, everything is...
If I open a can of soda, just like in this little video right here, if I open a can of soda, what happens to the air in it?
But we don't think about that. And then
The air escapes, right? And it fills the void around it. So they tell us that that space is a vacuum, right? Well, we're breathing right now, which means there's air pressure. So how do you have air pressure next to a vacuum?
it's your math.
All the air would escape to fill the void.
Why are you telling me to do this? When we're using your...
And people tell us that, you know, the sun sets and it goes behind a curve. Yet we can take a camera, we can zoom in at 83x. In about 10 seconds, it'll show you what actually happens. We zoomed in with a camera, and the sun does not set. What happens with the sun is it fades away. It's called angular resolution. Once something moves beyond your field of vision, you can no longer see it anymore. So, yeah. And then they tell us they're in space, and they send us videos like this of in space. Yet we can zoom in over here, and you can see animals walking on the outside of the spaceship. In about 10 seconds, you'll see a rat walk from here, and it'll come walk around the spaceship. Are you able to see it? See it walking right there? So if they're in space, how is there a rat walking along the outside of the spaceship?
Unarguable. Water does not...
So where are they?
If it's all filmed in a studio, it's all fake.
And then if you spin that...
Yeah, 100%. We can show you on here what they're doing. They say they're in space, but see they're wearing harnesses. And you can see the wires and the harnesses in their back.
Scientifically and observably,
And then they reach over.
stationary.
Their wires are hanging from here. When he goes to do a flip, he's suspended from wires. This guy in the back's holding the wire straight so he can do his flip and make you think he's in space.
Why do you want to fool us like that?
Because it's all about the bottom of it. What's it say? Globes are not for educational purposes, only decorations. Every single globe says that on the bottom. It's not real.
Yeah, the globe is a religious idea of heliocentrists, people that worship the sun. That's who started it. They're the ones who started the idea of a globe. But in reality, we can measure it, and it's measurably flat, and it's stationary. They give us the calculations and tell us how much it's supposed to curve, and we go out and we test that, and it's flat, flat, flat. And it doesn't move. There have been scientists in the early 1900s, they tried to test the spin of the Earth, and what they actually prove is that the Earth doesn't spin. It's stationary, that the sky above us rotates.
And you ever seen like a sunset? So there's like a sunset, which we just showed you. Well, the sun is shining across the water and it looks like this, right? If the Earth was curved, it couldn't reflect off of a flat surface, right? This is what it looks like on a plane if it's
The
flat.
Earth is flat,
This is what it looks like on its curve.
Does not spin. Scientifically,
Earth looks
the
like this,
Earth
right?
is
Doesn't
flat.
look like a ball. It's not curved.
NASA Live. It's a NASA Cartoon Network.
No, that's great. That's great to know.
Are you Christian?
Yeah.
All right. If you look at NASA's logo, look at the red part right here. What does that look like to you? The red part. The tongue of a serpent. The deceiver, the liar. And what's it say in Isaiah 40:22? God looked down upon the circle of the earth. Not the sphere, not the globe, the circle. The earth is flat. It looks like this. Just like it tells you in the Bible.
Okay.
And what else does it say? The earth is fixed and immovable, right? But then science tells you, oh no, we're going through space. How fast are we going around the sun? 66,600 miles an hour. There's that 666, right? What was the mark of the beast? The 666.
Yeah.
How fast do we the sun move through the Milky Way? 666,000 miles an hour. 666. Peggy Whitson holds the record for longest time in space. NASA says. How many days was it? 666. We're not allowed to travel below this Antarctic Circle because the Antarctic Treaty. The Antarctic Circle is at what degrees latitude? 666. The circumference of the moon.
Is Satan worship.
NASA. What letters do you use to spell NASA? NASA. What letters do you use to spell Satan? The same letters except a T. And I'll tell you where the T is in T minus 3, 2, 1. There's a T right there. They always started out with T minus, right?
Okay.
They got to put that T in there. And what's the tilt of the Earth from the x-axis? 66.6 degrees. It's all right there.
Wow. That's smart.
Just look into it. That's all we're saying. Thank you.
If you don't look, you're willfully ignorant.